Hello friends, I am Sharad Daze, practicing chartered accountant for more than 38 years in Pune. I am also handling cases relating to professional misconduct for chartered accountants for the last 15 years. That's why I intend to start this lecture series on professional misconduct and code of ethics meant for all the professionals. Before I commence, let me make it very clear that I do not intend to stand for any election of the Central Council or Regional Council as well as Pune branch. So this is purely for educational purposes. Now this will be helpful to the chartered accountants, cost accountants and company secretaries as also students who intend to appear for final examination of these three institutes. The reason I am going to explain here right now, as we are aware, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India is established by Chartered Accountants Act 1949. The Institute of Cost Accountants of India is established by the Cost and Works Accountants Act of 1959, and the Institute of Company Secretaries of India is established by the Company Secretaries Act of 1980. All the three professional institutes have got separate statute passed by the Parliament. Now, in each statute, there is a chapter 5 dealing with misconduct. That chapter 5 has got section 22 in all the three statutes, in all the three acts. Section 22 is identical, not even a single word or comma you will find a change in all the three statutes. Section 22 refers to two schedules attached to the respective act. Now these schedules has got schedule 1 has got 4 parts and schedule 2 has got 3 parts. Now, what is a professional misconduct? If I read to section 22 of the Chartered Accountants Act, which is verbatim with other two statutes, it refers, for the purposes of this act, the expression professional or other misconduct shall be deemed to include any act or omission provided in any of the schedules, that is schedule 1, schedule 2, but nothing in this section shall be construed to limit or abridge in any way the power conferred or duty cast on the director discipline under section 21 subsection 1 to inquire into the conduct of any member of the institute under any other circumstances. So it has got two elements, section 22. One is the professional misconduct deemed to be included an act of omission or commission mentioned in schedules, that is number 1, and number 2, but any other misconduct which is not covered by schedule 1 and schedule 2 can also be inquired into by director discipline in certain circumstances. That means schedule 1 and schedule 2 are not the limiting entries of professional misconduct. It means the scope is much wider. Now this misconduct is always with adjudged or is referred with reference to the authorities that have been issued by the institutes. We have got statements issued by the institutes which are mandatory, hence must be followed in discharging the attest function. However, if there is a deviation, it must be adequately disclosed. Then we have got accounting or auditing or secretarial standards which are mandatory, obviously from the respective dates notified by the institutes. The standards override the statements. That means standards have got overriding effect over the statements made by the institute. Then we have got guidance notes, which by definition are recommendatory in nature. The professional should ordinarily follow them except when he is satisfied that in the given circumstances it is not necessary to do so. Of course, he has to state why the guidelines or guidance note is not being followed. Then, coming back to the schedules, because there you will find the list of misconduct. Now, Schedule 1, Part 1 has got 11 entries with respect to Cost Accountants Act as well as Company Secretaries Act. However, only in respect of Chartered Accountants Act, Schedule 1, Part 1 has got 12 entries. Entry number 9 of Schedule 1, Part 1 of Chartered Accountants Act is extra, additional vis-a-vis the other statutes. As to the Schedule 1, Part 2 consists of 2 entries only. Schedule 3 and 4 consists of 3 and 2 entries respectively. Now coming to Schedule 2, Part 1 has got 10 entries, and Schedule 2 and 3 of Schedule 2, Part 2 and 3 has got 4 and 1 entry respectively. Now as to the applicability of the parts, Schedule 1, Part 1 applies to professional in practice. Schedule 1, Part 2 applies to professional not in practice or professional in service. Schedule 3 and 4 applies generally. It means it applies to both practicing as well as non-practicing professional. Then Part 1 of Schedule 2 applies to professional in practice. Part 2 and Part 3 of Schedule 2 applies generally. That means it applies to professional in practice or otherwise. That is how the distinction between these two. So for a professional in practice, Schedule 1 Part 1, Schedule 2 Part 2 mandatorily applicable, as well as Schedule 3 and 4, Part 3 and 4 of Schedule 1 and Part 2 and 3 of Schedule 2 applicable to professional in practice. For a professional in service, Schedule 1 Part 2 as well as Schedule 1 Part 3 and 4 and Schedule 2 Part 2 and 3 are applicable. We'll be going entry wise in our next lectures. As to the procedure of professional misconduct, enquiry, investigation and awarding punishment, there has been a sea change in the procedure from 2006. I think precise date is 8th August of 2006 for a chartered accountants. Now what was the provision earlier? Earlier, if anybody makes a complaint with the institute regarding the professional misconduct covered by Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 as the case may be, the disciplinary committee was appointed, which is a standing committee for the institutes. Now this disciplinary committee will inquire, will investigate the matter and will come to conclusion whether a particular member, professional, is guilty or not. Having determined that a professional is guilty, then the matter will travel to the council of the respective institutes. As we are aware, the council consists of some 30-40 members. Now before the council, the respondent, that is a professional, can make his submission again. It is like an appeal from the disciplinary committee to the council. And council will come to the conclusion whether a professional is guilty or not. If the council feels that the professional is guilty, then the council will recommend the punishment. I repeat the last line. The council will recommend the punishment. That means council could not give any punishment. Council will recommend the punishment and the matter will be referred to the High Court of the jurisdiction where the respondent, that is professional, is residing or his professional address is in that jurisdiction. That means if a professional is from Pune, the matter will be referred to the Bombay High Court. If the professional is from, say, Visakhapatnam, the matter will be referred to, at that time, the AP High Court at Hyderabad. And the High Court is to confirm the punishment, or High Court can reduce the punishment. So what used to happen, practically speaking, no one is really interested in these professional misconduct matters at the High Court level, and the issue was to prolong for 10-15 years or so. And after 10 years or so, High Courts have taken a view that for last 10 years it was a hanging sword on the professional chartered accountant or a cost accountant or a company secretary, as the case may be, so that hanging sword for 10 years is enough. So even if he has been removed for say 3 months or 6 months, High Court will grant reprimand and close the matter. So it used to take at least 15 to 20 years till the matter is finally concluded by the High Court, and again, as usual, an appeal will lie as a special petition before the Supreme Court against the decision of the High Court. So it used to take substantial time frame, and by the time the member has lost, or even many times the member expired before the issue is finally concluded, and it was sort of a public were not satisfied with the punishment meted out to professionals for their negligence. So the law was substantially amended in 2006. Now what has been the amendment? Now in 2006, the amendment, then we have got under section 21, a disciplinary directorate is established. Please note all these sections are identical in all the three statutes. So when I say section 21, it means section 21 of CA Act, section 21 of Cost Accountants Act, as well as section 21 of Company Secretaries Act. Identical 100%. Then there is a disciplinary director is established. This is the first time an authority is established within the statute itself. Then under section 21A, Board of Discipline is established. Under section 21B, a disciplinary committee is established. Pre-2006, there was only disciplinary committee, there was no Board of Discipline. So after 2006, we have got two committees, Board of Discipline and Disciplinary Committee. Now, what happens, what is the procedure? If the complaint is with respect to items included in Schedule 1, then the matter will be referred to Board of Discipline. If the complaint is with respect to matters or entries included in Schedule 2 as well as Schedule 1, the matter will be referred to Disciplinary Committee. The complainant is required to make a complaint with the institute in Form I or Form 1, as the case, as you call it. It is identical for all the three institutes. Now when the complaint is made in the form, the complainant is required to make certain payment to the institute, respectively rupees 2,500. Then here the director discipline comes into picture. He receives the complaint and deals with the complaint in a manner laid down by the rules framed by the government. We are going to see the rules in my next lecture. Again, these rules are identical for all the three professionals. If you require, you can email me at sharadvaze@gmail.com. If you like the video, please pass it on. See you in the next lecture. Thank you very much.